people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ryan Garcia recently took to his social media to dispel preliminary reports indicating that he may be facing former unified super lightweight champion Jose Ramirez. Ryan says, no Ramirez. Let's make that clear. So that brings the tally to about 4 fights that are not happening for Ryan. Initially, he called out Devin after Devin beat Regis Prograis. Then he doubled back on that to focus on Rolly Romero, who, according to Oscar De La Hoya, priced himself out. No idea what's happening with Isaac or what isn't happening, but Ryan says nothing is happening with Jose Ramirez, who recently inked a deal, a multi-fight deal with Golden Boy Promotions. They're on the same side of the street. In theory, it should be an easy fight to make, and given that most of their shows are on the West Coast,
you could put some asses in some seats with that thing.
Ryan continued, it's Ryan Garcia versus Oscar De La Hoya at this point. I don't imagine it's easy for Oscar and Bernard Hopkins to promote this fighter, given that this fighter and what notoriety he has amassed, not because of anything that he did in the ring, but because of his social media presence, anything and everything
outside the ring.
He hasn't actually achieved anything inside the ring, across 2 divisions, across 2 weight classes, 135 and 140. He was never a champion in either. That's saying that he's a limited fighter, not very accomplished, but he's still very popular. Perhaps that's why he's so hard to work with. Perhaps that's why he thinks he knows better. He doesn't trust the process.
He got a shortcut to popularity that was only made possible by this modern day and age, social media and his social media presence. Without that, in a previous era,
just based on his boxing and his ability to achieve notoriety through boxing, he really wouldn't get very far. Thus, I don't imagine that 2 veterans of the sport, 2 Hall of Famers like Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins, I don't imagine it's easy for them to have to deal with someone who is so self-entitled,
simultaneously so unproven.
I mean, they can't make a fight for this kid without there being some type of drama, some type of issue. They can't do nothing for this guy without there being a problem. He's a very problematic fighter, and I don't imagine it's easy for Oscar and Bernard to have to deal with that, but while he's still under contract and that contract is actionable, they have to.
This has been going on for years now, I think as far back as 2019. I can remember Ryan Garcia having an issue dating back to every single fight from 2019 till now.
I'm not actually interested in Ryan's career, and I don't think he beats any of the somebodies at or around these weights. If I'm even taking the time out to discuss him, it's because this is a boxing news channel, and this is the latest. This is the news on Ryan. He's not fighting Jose Ramirez.
But he's not fighting Rolly either. I don't know about Isaac.
You start to wonder if it would have been better for Golden Boy Promotions if Oscar Duarte won instead of Ryan Garcia. Would Oscar have been an easier fighter to work with, an easier fighter to promote? Because for all of Ryan Garcia's perceived popularity, the boxing fans generally don't like him all that much. Who he's popular with are teens and tweens that frequent social media, not necessarily boxing fans. And I don't know what profit Golden Boy is even turning over on this fighter. The biggest fight of his career was on somebody else's platform under somebody else's banner, and it's a fight that he lost. Ryan, to me, seems like a liability for Golden Boy Promotions. An issue.
Who always has one. He always has an issue.
They can't seem to make a fight for this kid without there being some kind of an issue. According to Oscar De La Hoya, both Rolly Romero and Isaac Cruz priced themselves out of that fight. That's according to Oscar, but the rift between Ryan and Oscar, it still remains. So who really knows what's going on behind the scenes, behind the curtain? But I'm just left wondering if Rolly and Isaac jointly priced themselves out of a Ryan Garcia fight, what the fuck are they gonna do? When's the next time they're gonna fight? Do they even wanna fight?
The Ryan Garcia fight is the biggest fight either of them could have at this time.
Short of a Gervonta Davis fight, a Gervonta Davis rematch for the both of them, and when will Gervonta Davis be returning to action? As boxing insider Rick Glaser says, from a quality source, the first PBC on Amazon pay-per-view is now reputedly going to be March 30th with no for sure fight made as of yet, and Canelo will go May 4th. But still nothing official from the PBC, despite the fact that it's been 42 days since the PBC on Amazon boxing deal was first announced. The silence is deafening, and to the PBC fighters, it could be sickening. A good number of them have boxed on very small shows, very low on the radar, which we've talked about, a good number of their former champions.
The only PBC fighter I know of with a fight on schedule that has been announced is Ray Vargas, WBC featherweight champion. His upcoming fight with Nick Ball on the undercard of Joshua versus Ngannou.
That's the only PBC guy I know of with a fight on schedule, but as you can see, that's not a PBC show, and that fight, that's not happening on Amazon. Remember late last year when news first broke that Showtime would be calling it quits, they were leaving the sport of boxing, and how it was floated out there that maybe the PBC might jump into bed with DAZN. That was met with resistance.
I vaguely recall hearing about some interest from DAZN to pick up the PBC stable, but many PBC fans, they didn't like that idea.
I can't remember all the particulars, but I do remember that being a conversation that if Showtime was leaving the sport of boxing, where could and where would the PBC go? And them going to DAZN became a conversation, but many of the PBC's fans, they weren't on board for that. They didn't like that idea, and you have to wonder that if they had gone with DAZN instead of Amazon,
would they have had a schedule by now?
The obvious benefit of getting 3 separate brands of boxing on one platform is value for money. You'd get Matchroom shows, Golden Boy shows, and in that scenario at least, you would have got PBC shows alongside them.
But for whatever reason, PBC fans have an axe to grind with DAZN. I remember that tweet that I talked about in my previous video, the one where the guy accuses DAZN of being inept and not doing anything to grow the sport of boxing, poo-pooing on everything that's happening in Saudi for the sport.
I can't even begin with what a stupid fucking comment that is, but that's your average PBC fan. The PBC fans that celebrated the Amazon deal upon its announcement late last year, but here in the new one, there are no fight dates. There are no new announcements. Nothing.
What PBC fighters some might be familiar with? Former champions in Jarrett Hurd and Julian Williams, Mark Magsayo.
World title challenger in Luis Ortiz. They boxed all right, in non-televised shows. Shows that flew so low on the radar, some people didn't even know those guys were fighting.
I thought the Amazon deal was supposed to be this great fucking deal on this huge fucking platform.
All the celebrations and plaudits we heard last year in reference to the Amazon deal and how it's so much bigger and so much better than boxing on DAZN, when DAZN has already unveiled a comprehensive schedule of fights starting in January all the way into March, whereas Amazon and PBC haven't announced anything.
And the latest at 135 and 140 is that both Isaac and Rolly priced themselves out of the Ryan Garcia fight. If you're not fighting him, who are you fighting and when are you fighting?
And what about the Butterball? What about Gervonta Davis? When is he fighting? Is he the one that's going to kick off the deal in late March? We know that Saudis want to bring him to Saudi. They want to put him in the ring with Devin Haney, but Gervonta Davis's fans, the Haymanites, they don't want him to do that. They don't want him to fight over there. Okay.
You don't want him to fight over there, but there's no new news, no announcement about who he's going to be fighting over here. It seems to me that this is just a miserable fucking group of people that would sooner cut off their nose to spite their face than admit you're wrong.
You've been wrong. You've been wrong the whole time. About Al Heyman and his PBC, about Showtime and Showtime Boxing, which is now dead, now defunct. You've been wrong about the Amazon deal being better than going into bed with DAZN. I'd wager that had they gone into bed with DAZN late last year, they would have had some fight announcements already for this one.
You'd rather that they not announce anything, that they not do anything in the month of January, in the month of February, and most of March.
There isn't a word for how fucking miserably stupid some of you guys are. I mean, seriously, you claim to be a boxing fan and you think that's good for boxing.
They poo-poo on everything that isn't PBC when the PBC are the only ones that don't have any fights on schedule. Not yet.
But go on. And keep talking up the Amazon deal while you play the waiting game because of what a big boxing fan you are. And finally, as it pertains to His Excellency, Turki Al-Sheikh, he indicated his health issues accelerated Saudi spending spree on boxing, a good number of fights that he would like to see happen in his lifetime as much as we would like to see them.
That would explain why he's working with a sense of urgency.
I like the work, Al-Sheikh stated during a 19-minute question and answer session DAZN posted on its social media platforms and website on Wednesday. I like it for my country and for the trust of my king, King Salman, God bless him, and the trust of the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. For me, and I even have a personal situation and reason. I have a lot of health issues in the last 5 years, maybe. And this has made me want to do everything and see it in my life.
Al-Sheikh didn't divulge details relating to his declining health, but his words shed light on perhaps why he was so insistent on staging the Day of Reckoning event, December 23rd at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
He's proven himself to be a very powerful and influential ally to the sport of boxing in a relatively short amount of time, though in a very general sense, out of common decency, I am sorry to hear that he's experiencing health issues. It's uncomfortable being faced with our own mortality and what we would like to see before we pass on. And what connects us is that we're all boxing fans and there are boxing matches that we would all like to see within our lifetime. We are coming with a new strategy, Al-Sheikh said, and new idea and a new vision to do and deliver to the market the best fights with good price and make the fights that people want to see. We don't waste time. Tyson Fury is 35 now, around 35. Joshua is around 33, I think. Usyk is around 36. Wilder, 38 to 37. Ought to a better beef. He's now 39 next week. Why are we losing time?
What he's managed to do is bring some of the biggest promotional outfits together, if not the biggest promotional outfits together, from all corners of the world.
Normally gets in the way of these fights happening is the money. The money in tandem with the relationships and commitments to a particular broadcast partner and operating with that broadcast partner's best interests in mind. Turki Al-Sheikh's cash injections into the sport alleviate the burden, alleviate the pressure.
Because the promoters and their broadcast partners, fiscally, they're not on the hook.
Not if somebody with a lot of means and a lot of money can come in and bankroll these shows for them. Thus, they get the content at no expense to them. The people need to see Joshua versus Fury. Joshua needs to see Joshua versus Wilder. And I hope Wilder comes back, you know. And there is a rumor, and you know it. The fight was between Joshua and Wilder for March 8th. But you see the result and the body condition of Wilder now. It would not have been reasonable to do the fight now. We want him to come back.
That got my attention.
It got my attention because once the fight with Joseph Parker was over and the outcome was decided, Deontay Wilder took it upon himself to come back here stateside and start talking about how the Anthony Joshua people are now going to use his loss against Joseph Parker as an excuse not to fight.
He gets around his yes men. He gets around his sycophants and tries to propagate this narrative that Anthony is still avoiding him when he's the one who couldn't hold up his end of the bargain.
And in His Excellency's own words, it would not have been reasonable to do that fight now, to do that fight after Wilder stinks out the joint with Joseph Parker.
There is still hope
that if they bring him back and match him baby soft, because they would have to conjure up a Mark DeMori kind of guy. Maybe they can scrape up what's left of him after that Filip Pergovic knockout to stick him in the ring with Wilder. That's one of the only guys I think he can beat, or the kind of guy that he can beat, because he can't be in there with anybody world class. Immediately after the Parker fight, there were rumors and rumblings that Wilder might come right back against Zhilei Zhang. We now know that's not gonna happen.
Because Zhang is fighting Parker.
Deontay Wilder's fans, they didn't like that idea. The same people that'll sit there and tell you that Anthony avoided him and Deontay would knock Anthony out, they didn't like that idea at all.
You trying to damn finish. You was trying to finish Wilder off on.
I mean, I was trying to get him back to the top.
Man, you can't get him back to the top putting him on Zane, and he just took an ass whooping like he just took.
If he beats Zhang, is he not back on the top?
That dude got it right. Parker deserves Zane. Zane deserves Parker.
But answer the question, though. If Wilder would have beat Zhang, is he not at the top? Do you not want the AJ fight again?
Oh, yeah, I think he would have been at the top, but you asking for too much. You asking too much of him. You asking too much for in this short span of time. He just he really got his ass whooped every ring. He just took a rough one. And he hadn't been in the ring. You don't put him in there with a man that hot. But I'm glad that the man got it right. Parker and Zane, that's the real fight. I don't care what AJ do with that other dude, because that's the fight that shouldn't be. That dude just lost to Fury. He shouldn't be in the ring with AJ.
Your typical Wilder fan that regularly contradicts themselves and doesn't even realize it. Compare how Francis Ngannou handled himself against Tyson Fury to how Wilder handled himself against Tyson Fury, and you're telling me that he shouldn't be in the ring with Anthony Joshua, but Wilder should? So here's what I think. If the Saudis are still willing to bring Wilder back to participate in other shows, his first fight back, they're gonna have to match him baby soft, and I mean baby soft, so that he can get back in the winner's bracket. And the man's 38 years old, he's close to 40.
But if they still want to use him, his first fight back there, they're going to have to match him baby soft. They can't put him in there with anybody world class or close to world class. They can't, because he'll just lose again.
I don't even think Wilder wants to fight anymore. I think he had every intention of sitting out all of last year, but when the Saudis approached him with all of that money, it was enough to get him off the couch and get him in the gym. It didn't work out in the ring, but that's what I think happened. And here and now, I still don't think he really wants to fight.
But he does want to keep up appearances. That's why he gets back to America and starts blaming AJ for the fight between them not happening. The fight's not happening between you because you lost.
So if the end goal, the end game, is to get him back to where that fight is back on, it's back on the table, it's a hot topic again, and I don't even know if you can do that because he's coming up on 40 very soon. What you can do is match him baby soft in his very next fight. Then you put him in there with Andy Ruiz. If this is all about redeeming Deontay Wilder.
Wilder needs a rebound fight, and Andy needs a tune-up fight. Maybe you have them both box on the same show.
I'm just bouncing ideas around. Andy Ruiz hasn't fought in over a year. He sat out all of last year. He hasn't boxed since the Luis Ortiz fight. He needs a tune-up fight, and Wilder needs a rebound fight. You put both those fights on the same card to build up what could be their fight. And if Wilder takes care of business against Andy, if he knocks him out where Anthony didn't, then the Anthony Joshua fight is a conversation again.
Though it feels like a big reach, given how bad he looked in his last fight, but that's how you can resurrect him. That's one way you could bring him back.
It's a way for him to prove that he is back.